Sit back and relax and enjoy the show with Big OG. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.
Today we will walk through the shadows of Oklahoma and uncover its darkest and most terrifying mysteries, those rarely told in full, either out of fear of retaliation or for reasons far more sinister. Some speak of lost treasures, others of ghost towns. But there are stories that go beyond any known explanation, and those are the most dangerous of all. And you will see all of them here if you have the courage to make it to the end. So close the curtains, turn off the lights, and pay close attention. If something moves behind you while you listen to this story, it may just be your imagination. Or maybe you've awakened something that was never meant to be remembered. Now tell me, are you sure you want to continue? Because after hearing these mysteries, the silence of your own home may never feel the same again. Let's begin. Dead Woman's Crossing, the road of the beheaded woman. Dead Woman's Crossing is one of those stories many treat as an urban legend, but the truth is far darker. This is not just the story of a murdered woman. It is the story of a woman brutally betrayed, hunted and killed in such a cruel way that to this day, the mystery remains unsolved. The road bearing this name in Weatherford, Oklahoma, still carries the energy of that crime, and those who pass through it at night swear they are not alone. The story begins in 1905 with Katie DeWitt James, a 29-year-old woman, married and mother to a 14-month-old baby, Lulu Bell. Katie lived in an unhappy marriage marked by abuse and violence. In an era when few women dared to defy their husbands, she made a bold decision. She filed for divorce. Her plan was simple. She would take a train to Ripley, where she would stay with her cousin until she could start anew. But something happened along the way. Katie never reached her destination. She was last seen in Weatherford, accompanied by a woman named Fanny Norton, a local prostitute with a dark reputation. Fanny promised to help her reach her cousin, but instead, witnesses saw the two of them getting into a carriage along with Lulu Bell. Shortly after, Fanny returned alone. The baby was found abandoned at a stranger's house. Katie simply vanished. Katie's father, suspecting something terrible had happened, hired a detective named Sam Bartell. He discovered that Katie had never left Weatherford alive. A month later, her body was found under a bridge near Deer Creek. But it wasn't just a body, it was a headless body. Someone had decapitated Katie and taken her head far away, ensuring she never received a proper burial. The police had only one suspect, Fanny Norton, but before they could arrest her, Fanny poisoned herself and died, taking any confession to the grave. The case was closed. No one else was investigated. Katie's head was never found, and the questions were never answered. Was it just Fanny who did this? Or was she covering for someone? Could Katie's own husband have ordered her murder? And then the reports began. People driving down the road claimed to see a woman in a blue dress standing at the roadside staring at passing cars. Other drivers, traveling alone at night, reported seeing for just a moment in their rearview mirror a figure sitting in the back seat, only for it to vanish seconds later. But the most terrifying encounters happen at the bridge where Katie's body was found. If you stop there and stay silent long enough, some say you might hear a faint whisper, "Help me." And sometimes they feel a cold touch on their shoulder or hear a muffled scream coming from nowhere. Some believe Katie's spirit never found peace because she is still searching for her head. Others think her death was part of something much darker, a ritualistic sacrifice or a crime committed by someone too powerful to be caught. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: the road of Dead Woman's Crossing was never left in the past. Oklahoma has never forgotten this story, and if one day you find yourself driving down that road, alone, late at night, it's best not to look in the rearview mirror, because maybe, just maybe, a woman in a blue dress will be sitting there. Ooh, and if that happens, you may hear a whisper, or feel a chill run down your spine, or worse, realize that you are no longer alone in your car. Help me. Now tell me, if you were driving down that road at night, would you stop to look around? Or would you simply hit the gas and never look back? Karen Silkwood, the woman who knew too much. Karen Silkwood was not just a whistleblower. She was a woman who became a problem for the wrong people, a misplaced piece in a game of power and dirty secrets. What happened to her was not a simple car accident. It was a warning, a clear message to anyone who dared to challenge the hidden interests behind the United States nuclear industry. In 1972, Karen began working at Kerr-McGee, a company that produced nuclear fuel in Crescent, Oklahoma. Her job was to polish plutonium fuel rods, a highly radioactive material capable of contaminating someone with just a few invisible grains. But Karen soon realized that the company didn't care about the workers' safety. What she discovered was terrifying. Employees exposed to radiation without proper equipment, failures in plutonium containment, and, most alarmingly, kilograms of the material mysteriously disappearing. To put things in perspective, only about 5 kilos of plutonium is needed to build a nuclear bomb. Now imagine dozens of kilograms simply vanishing from a lab. Karen was not the kind of person to stay silent. She joined the union and started gathering evidence. She had names, dates, documents, everything she needed to expose one of the biggest nuclear scandals of the time. But when you meddle with secrets of this magnitude, the risks are not small. In November 1974, Karen did something no one expected. During a routine inspection, she discovered she was contaminated with plutonium. But this wasn't a simple accidental exposure. Her radiation levels were 400 times above the safe limit. The next day, without even having come into contact with radioactive materials, she was even more contaminated. Karen began to suspect that someone was deliberately trying to poison her. Days later, when her home was investigated, they found that even her toothbrush was radioactive. The dishes, the furniture, everything in her apartment was contaminated. This wasn't an accident. This was a message. But Karen wasn't intimidated. On the night of November 13, 1974, she took a dossier filled with evidence against Kerr-McGee and left to meet a journalist from the New York Times. This was the final move, the moment when she would expose everything for the world to see. She never made it to the meeting. Her car was found overturned in a ditch on Portland Avenue near Oklahoma City. The dossier? It disappeared. The official investigation claimed she had fallen asleep at the wheel and lost control of the car. But nothing about this version made sense. For starters, there were skid marks on the road, indicating that Karen had fought against something, perhaps someone trying to force her off the road. Inside the car, illicit substances were found, but Karen had no history of drug use. It was too convenient a detail, making it easy to discredit her. A woman about to expose a giant corporation suddenly dies alone, in a crashed car with drugs in her system. This doesn't just smell like a conspiracy. It is a conspiracy. And here's the strangest detail. One witness claimed they saw a truck following Karen on the road shortly before the crash. Another person reported that at the accident scene, men in suits were seen standing at a distance, watching. Who were they? What were they doing there before the police even arrived? The case was closed as an accident, and Kerr-McGee was never held accountable for the missing plutonium. In 1975, less than a year after Karen's death, the company shut down its nuclear facility in Crescent, as if it were erasing its tracks. But this is not the end of the story. In the following years, more than 44 kilograms of plutonium were officially declared missing from Kerr-McGee. What happened to that material? Where did it go? Some theories suggest the plutonium was smuggled out of the US, possibly into Israel's nuclear program, which at the time was still shrouded in secrecy. And here's something few people mention. The FBI never thoroughly investigated Karen Silkwood's case. There was never an official reopening of the case, never any suspects. The company paid $138 million to Karen's family in a legal settlement, but never admitted guilt. Today her name is remembered as a symbol of courage. But what happened to her was not an accident. It was a silent execution, staged to look like an ordinary mistake. And what if Karen were alive today? What if she had delivered that dossier? Maybe we would know the truth, but in this case, the truth was buried along with her. The underground Chinese city of Oklahoma City, the buried secret beneath our feet. The underground Chinese city of Oklahoma City is one of those mysteries that many try to bury, but it never completely disappears. For over a century, locals have spoken about hidden tunnels, secret passageways, and caverns connecting buildings without anyone on the surface knowing. Some say the tunnels were created by Chinese immigrants to protect themselves from racial persecution. Others believe they were used for smuggling, opium trafficking, and even dark rituals. What no one can deny is that there is too much evidence to dismiss this as just a legend. It all begins in the late 19th century, when Chinese migration to the United States was at its peak. But discrimination against these workers was intense. Laws were enacted to prevent them from obtaining citizenship or prospering, and in cities like Oklahoma City, the prejudice was severe. Then, rumors began to spread that the Chinese had built a subterranean network of tunnels to move around without being harassed. The strange thing was that there were accounts of people seeing a Chinese worker on one street, and minutes later, he would appear on the other side of the city without anyone witnessing him walking along the way. What could explain that? The first documented report of the tunnels appeared in 1921 in an article in the Oklahoma newspaper, which mentioned a sanitary inspection in Chinatown. During the visit, inspectors and a police officer were led into hidden caverns beneath the city. Something left them baffled. When they exited one establishment and moved to another, the owners already knew they were coming. This might seem trivial today, but at the time there were no telephones in these locations. The only logical explanation was that the tunnels were being used for secret communication. But the real revelation came in 1969. During construction work in downtown Oklahoma City, workers uncovered a stone staircase leading down to a basement that was not recorded on any official map. At the bottom of the stairs was a wooden door locked with an old Chinese padlock. When they opened it, they found ruins of a laundry and an old opium den. Chinese newspapers were still pasted on the walls, as if the place had been abandoned in a hurry. The strangest thing, however, was the smell in the air, something metallic and damp, like rusted iron mixed with wet earth. One of the workers ventured deeper and found another door, but when they tried to open it, they felt a cold wind coming from the gap, something impossible since there was no air circulation in that space. That's when they heard a muffled sound, something moving in the darkness. The workers dropped their tools and fled. No one ever investigated the site again. The basement was quickly sealed with concrete, and no official excavation was conducted to uncover what lay beyond that second door. Some believe that whatever was down there is still there, buried beneath the weight of the city. Beyond the tunnels and the underground ruins, there is an even more macabre rumor. Some old residents speak of a secret temple hidden beneath Oklahoma City, where certain Chinese businessmen not only worked but lived, far from the public eye. Some claim the temple was a place of prayer and protection against vengeful spirits, but others say that on certain nights, darker ceremonies took place there. There are stories of human sacrifices, particularly of workers without families, those who could vanish without a trace. During excavations in the area, human bones have been found. Some say they belong to immigrants who died in the city, but others believe these remains are evidence of something much more sinister. The fact is that no official investigation was ever conducted to determine the origin of the bones. Today, most of the original Chinatown has been demolished, replaced by modern buildings where an underground maze once existed. But the passages are still down there, blocked, hidden beneath layers of concrete and forgotten history. Some sections remain accessible, but very few dare to enter. Reports of unexplained sounds echoing from beneath, of doors slamming shut on their own, and shadows moving in the depths keep those who know the story at a distance. The mystery of the underground Chinese city of Oklahoma City has never been fully solved. The tunnels exist, and what was inside them has been carefully buried by time and fear. What else could be hidden beneath the city? The only way to find out would be to break the concrete and open those ancient doors. But the real question is, does anyone truly want to know what's inside? The center of the universe, Tulsa's acoustic mystery. The center of the universe in Tulsa appears, at first glance, to be just an ordinary concrete circle on a pedestrian bridge. But anyone who has ever stepped on it knows that something is very wrong with that place. It defies the laws of sound, physics, and according to some, even reality. If you stand at the exact center and speak, your voice returns in a strange and distorted echo. But if someone is outside the circle, they will hear almost nothing. As if your voice were being absorbed by something invisible. As if that place were a point where the rules of the world do not work properly. The official explanation says that all of this is just an acoustic accident, caused by the arrangement of the surrounding concrete benches and the shape of the bridge where the circle was built. But this theory does not answer all the questions. Why does the sound inside the circle seem so artificially distorted, almost as if someone were repeating your voice in a wrong way? And why do so many people report strange sensations when staying there for too long? What no one likes to talk about is that the place already had a reputation for being strange long before the circle was built. The original bridge, which connected downtown Tulsa to other parts of the city, caught fire in the 1980s and was partially destroyed. Instead of rebuilding it for cars, authorities decided to turn it into a pedestrian pathway without paying much attention to what they were creating. It was only after the place was reopened that the reports began. The first problem is that no one knows who started calling that place the center of the universe. The name emerged without a clear explanation, as if it had simply spread through Tulsa out of nowhere. No one has found records of when the nickname began, and the official history seems cut off and inconsistent. But the legends surrounding the circle are much older. Some people believe that the center of the universe is a portal, a point where the barrier between dimensions is weaker. There are reports of people who heard voices that were not their own when speaking inside the circle, as if something on the other side were repeating their words back to them. Some of these voices sound human, others not so much. Some say that if you say a name inside the circle and wait in silence, you may hear a whisper calling your name back, and sometimes it comes from behind you. On certain nights, especially when the moon is full, visitors report feeling a strange tingling at the back of their necks, as if something invisible were watching them. Others say that when they enter the circle, their body feels lighter, as if gravity there were slightly different. And then there are the disappearances. They are rare, but they exist. People who were last seen in the area of the center of the universe and were never found again. Of course, Tulsa has its own problems, and these cases can be explained by normal causes. But some witnesses swear they saw someone simply vanish from sight, without explanation, as if they had been pulled somewhere else. Some theorists believe that the circle was built over an ancient power point, a place where native tribes performed rituals centuries ago. There are stories about a sacred site of the Osage, a tribe that inhabited the region before the arrival of the colonizers. According to some versions, the circle is located exactly where there was a ceremonial altar used to communicate with spirits. Others believe the explanation is even worse. The center of the universe could be a point where space-time is broken, a place where reality is not fully stabilized. The distorted echo would not be just an acoustic effect, but rather a trace of an anomaly that no one can comprehend. Skeptics say that all of this is just illusion and exaggeration, that there is nothing special there beyond a curious sound peculiarity. But the residents of Tulsa know that there is something more about that place, something that cannot be explained so easily. If you ever visit the center of the universe, try speaking inside the circle and listen to the sound of your own voice coming back to you in a strange and wrong way. But before you leave, look around. See if there is not someone watching you from the other side of the circle, standing in silence, without you remembering seeing that person arrive there. And if, as you are leaving, you hear your name being whispered without anyone having spoken, do not look back. The Iron Door in the Wichita Mountains, the Forgotten Gold. The Wichita Mountains in Oklahoma hold a secret so dark that few dare to search for it. Somewhere hidden among the rocky valleys and canyons, there is an iron door embedded in stone. It is not a natural cave nor a common mine. It is a sealed entrance, hiding a treasure as ancient as it is ominous. Some say that those who find this door never return. Others claim that some did return, but not as they were before, and you'll be shocked when you learn why. The legend tells that centuries ago, Spanish explorers arrived in the region searching for gold. They weren't just exploring, they were enslaving natives and forcing them to mine precious metals deep within the Wichitas. For years, they extracted gold from the mountains until something happened. No one knows exactly what. Some say the Spaniards were attacked by indigenous tribes and forced to flee. Others believe that something awoke within the mine, something that was never meant to be disturbed. What is known is that before they left, they sealed the entrance with an iron door and stones, leaving behind not just gold, but bodies. The most disturbing detail: they locked their own workers inside. It's unclear whether this was to prevent the natives from escaping or to ensure that no one ever left that cave again. But among those who seek the treasure, the story is the same. To this day, if you approach the iron door, you might hear faint knocking from the other side. But the Spaniards weren't the only ones to hide something there. In the 1800s, the infamous outlaw Belle Starr and her gang stole a fortune in gold. It is said that while fleeing the law, Belle and her crew used the ancient sealed mine to hide their loot. According to the legend, they removed part of the stone barrier, entered and stored everything inside. When they left, they put the iron door back in place and covered it with more dirt and rocks. The only problem? They never returned to retrieve the gold. Belle Starr was murdered before she could reveal the cave's exact location. Her accomplices were either arrested or killed, and any maps that could have led to the treasure vanished with time. Decades later, Jesse James and his gang also used the Wichita Mountains as a hideout. Some believe that the gold Belle Starr hid was the same treasure Jesse James tried to recover. Others say he found a different treasure, a fortune stolen from a Mexican caravan, which was buried in the same location as the Spanish mine. The irony? Jesse James was also killed before he could return for the gold, so the question remains, where is the iron door? The problem is that those who claim to have found it never seem to finish their search. One of the earliest modern reports comes from a farmer in 1900 who claimed he found the door. He tried to open it, but it seemed sealed from the inside. When he returned with tools to force it open, he never found the path again. He spent years searching, but the location seemed to have vanished from the landscape. Another account comes from an explorer in 1920 who supposedly followed an ancient map to the canyon where the door was hidden. He found the location, cleared the stones around the entrance, and began to dig. He never revealed exactly what he saw, but he ran away, pale and terrified. He sold all his belongings and left Oklahoma, never to return. Before departing, he left behind only one cryptic sentence: "The door doesn't lead where I thought it would." In the decades that followed, treasure hunters continued to search for the entrance. Some reported feeling a heavy presence in the air when they got close. Others claimed to have seen shadows moving among the rocks as the sun was setting. And there are those who swear they've heard whispers in an unknown language, as if someone was still trapped on the other side of the door. In the 1970s, a group of university students decided to search for the iron door using modern metal detectors. What they found was an inexplicable magnetic fluctuation in the area, as if something large and metallic was buried deep beneath. But before they could investigate further, one of them suffered a strange accident. He fell from a low ledge and broke both his legs. The group took it as a warning and never returned. Some believe the iron door doesn't just hide gold, it might hide something much older and far more dangerous. There are stories of underground creatures, beings that the Spaniards sealed away, never to be released. Others believe the mine connects to deep tunnels, possibly leading to a network of caverns that no one has fully explored. So the question remains, does anyone really want to find the door? Because if it is ever opened, no one knows what might come out. If you've made it this far, congratulations, because that means you truly have courage. But now I want to know, which of these stories made your heart race? Which one made you look over your shoulder, just to make sure you were alone? The best answer will get to choose the next legend for our upcoming video. So leave your comment and tell me which one kept you awake at night. And of course, leave your like to support the channel and ensure that more terrifying stories like these keep coming. Now be careful when turning off the lights. You never know what might be watching you in the dark.